From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. Tuesday, September 17th, 2024, a packed show for all y'all today. So let's not drag any time and get right into the show. Join me for a tradition on the CyberHub Podcast. My double espresso. We typically cheers on here. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. So we have a theme for the first part of this morning's show. The show's kind of broken down into two parts. There's kind of what I like to call the main events, and then there's the subsequent kind of foundational cybersecurity news that I like to cover. Today's show is heavy on the first side and very light on the back side. And I'll start by saying this. At some point, we have to understand that the current pace of cybersecurity events done by nation state is going to have a tragic impact on U.S. jobs, economy, and just Western civilization as a whole. You don't understand why? Let's start off with these news, starting from the leader of the axis of evil, a country by the name of China, run by the Chinese Communist Party. On Monday, the U.S. still announced charges against a Chinese national who will never be charged, by the way, because he'll never leave China, right? This person will, this is kind of like a patch of honor for him in China. He'll be honored for this. He'll receive an award from Xi Jinping, the dictator in China, right? And the Chinese Communist Party will elevate this person and his family to famehood. So we're essentially elevating this person. The individual, Sung Wu, who's 39 and remains at large because he's in China, created email accounts posing as US-based researchers and engineers. He used them to send spear phishing messages to NASA, Air Force, Navy, Army, and FAA employees. According to the indictment, Sung also targeted individuals working at research universities across the U.S., as well as employees at private companies in the aerospace sector. These are all the most sensitive sectors that we have. And we obviously know in 2021, when the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal took place, and we left billions of dollars of U.S. weapons and military equipment there. If you watch the Taliban videos going through the Air Force bases and some of the Army bases where all the equipment was left, next to them you saw Chinese nationals. They were taking that tech and they were copying it. Now they're hacking and they're taking it, meaning that competitive edge in research and development, where we spend a lot of money, is really shrinking. And once you lose that edge, you lose your battlefield superiority. You also use your economic superiority as well, because cheap Chinese knockoffs come into the market and they don't play by the same rules we play in. And that's something that the Western world has yet to understand in dealing with this communistic mindset. Something that Israel is learning the hard way post October 7th. It's something that at some point the United States and its allies are going to have to wake up and realize that we cannot play by the same rules when dealing with adversaries who abuse the same rules we play by and abuse the systems we set up to their advantage. And that creates a national security risk and an economic one at that. So engaging in spear phishing campaign, he was an employee of an aviation industry corporation of China, a state-owned aerospace and defense conglomerate headquartered in Beijing. They make civilian and military aircrafts. What do you know? The DOJ unsealed a 2021 indictment also alleging that JY, a Chinese national operating on behalf of the Chinese People's Liberation Army, hacked into a U.S. comm company network to steal proprietary information. We've also gone after a Russian national living in the U.S., a gentleman by the name of Denis Postovoy, for illicitly exporting to Russia microelectronic components that could be used in UAVs or drone. By the way, Russia is getting drones from Iran for their war in the Ukraine. So the Chinese, Iranian, Russian triangle there is really out there doing its piece as well. Samir Bambani, a Massachusetts resident, and Maxim Telesenko, a Russian national, were also charged with conspiring to export laser-wielding machines to Russia. And Gholam Raza Gudarzi, also known as Ron Gudarzi, was charged with smuggling UAV components to Iran, while Jeffrey Chance Nader was charged with conspiracy to procure and export aircraft components to Iran. The Axis partying. And they also party because now the U.S. Treasury Department is slapping sanctions on 5 individuals and one entity associated with Intellexa Consortium, which is kind of like a spyware cybersecurity vendor. Yesterday, we talked about Apple abruptly abandoning its lawsuit against NSO Group. Intellexa, founded by already a sanctioned individual by the name of Tal Jonathan DeLine, is described as a complex international networks of companies. 6 individuals and entities were added to the sanction list by OFAC. Feliz Bitzoyas, Andrea Nicolas Constantino Hermes Gambezi, Marom Harpaz, Pantiago Caroli, Artemis Artimayu, and Ali Ada Group, a BVI company. Again, all of these kind of hide behind a shell of different companies. But by the way, we're going to sanction them. Why? Because they sell spyware. So go figure that one out. We use spyware in the US and may even use Intellexa. But nonetheless, there we go, throwing off smoke signals into the wild. A German radio station was forced to broadcast an emergency tape following a cyber attack that's allegedly coming from unknown attackers in Russia. The ransomware incident left the broadcasting music from an emergency backup. The attack is the latest incident disrupting German organizations, with the country's Federal Office for Information Security warning the extortion of companies and public institutions through ransomware is the fastest growing area of cybercrime and now a major problem in Germany. And again, it's an economic issue. These small businesses rarely can sustain the type of cyber attacks in order to recover from them, and in most cases end up costing in jobs and in revenue and eventually go out of business. Continuing on here, because here's the big theme, and we're going to wrap this all up here in just a second. A Clipper malware is being used to steal crypto, according to Binance. They're warning customers that the malware is being used to manipulate withdrawal addresses in order to steal cryptocurrency from legitimate customers, creating significant financial losses for victims. The company, the largest crypto exchange in the world, said its security team is in the process of identifying and blacklisting suspicious addresses while letting victims know if they've been affected by the so-called Clipper malware. Binance has yet to give all information on this, but it appears that this malware manipulates the wallets in order to change the crypto wallet address for withdrawals, thus essentially allowing them to steal money. In November, Binance agreed to pay more than $4 billion in settlement with several U.S. law enforcement agencies after years of investigation uncovered widespread criminal use of the platform. Treasury also said the platform was used by groups like Hamas, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS, as well as other ransomware attackers, money launderers, and other criminals. Binance said its security team recovered $73 million in user funds that were stolen through hacks through July 31st. That figure surpassed the $55 million they recovered in 2023. So all in all, Binance staying busy. China continues to target U.S. and Taiwan defense industry conference with a really kind of stealthy fileless type of attack that utilizes a malicious file to carry out an in-memory attack, essentially helping it evade traditional methods as well as exfiltrate sensitive data. They actually leaned in on the event and sent people out a zip file disguised as a legitimate registration form for the conference. It was designed to trick users into launching an LNK file. That LNK file then ran in the background and initiated a series of covert actions to establish persistence and execute further malicious activity. It extracts a LUR PDF and a base64 encoded executable that's protected by a .NET confuser tool. It's placed in the startup folder, ensures it runs every time the system reboots. And as such, it's part of the reboot process where typically it's not identified. That's something I know Microsoft is working hard on addressing. And so then they essentially exfiltrate data and use network communication in order to launch this type of attack. Again, this is China targeting a US and Taiwan defense complex on the heels of the tensions going on between China wanting to potentially invade Taiwan. And like, look, I don't think China's going to militarily try to invade Taiwan. I think they're going to try to Hong Kong Taiwan. If that fails, they'll use military. If you don't know what that is, just go back 4 or 5 years and look what the Chinese Communist Party did to Hong Kong. India's Central Bureau of Investigation, acting on a tip on behalf of the FBI, dismantled a virtual asset and bullion-supported cybercrime network in the country. It's not much other than recovering 57 gold bars and around $20,000 in cash. They also identified mobile phones, laptops used to manage cryptocurrency accounts, details of bank lockers, documents, and other incriminating material used in the cybercrime. The syndicate employed a set of modus operandi to target victims. They employed social engineering or phishing tactics to gain unauthorized access to bank accounts and computers. So all in all, that network came down. The raids happened in Mumbai and Kolkata on September 12th and 13th. And the charged individuals will be charged as under Indian Penal Code Sections 120B, which is 6 months of imprisonment. And then they've got a 420 cheating and dishonestly inducing someone to deliver property, and then IT as well. All in all, a slap on the wrist. Check out our Substack, jamesazar.substack.com, for all the latest there. But let's wrap that up here for just a second. If we're noticing what our adversaries are doing, they're going after our IP, they're reducing the R&D gap, which when reducing the R&D gap changes the battle in the battlefield. And if you don't believe me, look what Hezbollah is doing in northern Israel with those drones, right? There's, people talk about the October 7th war and what happened in southern Israel. People are ignoring northern Israel, and that battlefield is hot, folks. It's hot. That war is imminent. It's a matter of days, maybe a week, before Israel launches a mass scale operation in Lebanon in order to deter Hezbollah and return the over 150,000 evacuated citizens of northern Israel back to their homes, or what's left of some of them, because some little towns and villages in northern Israel have been completely destroyed for 11 months by Hezbollah using unmanned drones and anti-tank missiles against those facilities. And again, the R&D gap gone. Those unmanned drones, that's U.S. technology stolen by Iran, stolen by China. That was when one of our drones fell in Iran, and then Obama failed to act on it, right? And we let the Chinese and the Iranians be able to reverse engineer our Reaper technology. That was almost 10 years ago. Those chickens are coming home to roost, folks. That's what we're seeing right now. And you're seeing it across all of these activities everywhere. And that's significant. That's significant because we're bleeding economically, we're bleeding geopolitically, we're bleeding internally, we're being manipulated through social media. The mainstream media definitely isn't doing their job. They're not evenly covering stories. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You can't tell me there's one media source that's unbiased today at all, right? You've got to balance everything going on. So we are in the midst of a massive attack using the Western values by our adversaries against us as a whole. We're seeing that with these hacks by the Chinese, what the Iranians are doing, with what the Russians are doing, targeting the economies of Europe, paralyzing small business. And small business is the backbone of an economy. Remember that small business, entrepreneurship, innovation, disruption is the backbone of every economy. It's what makes this country great. It's what makes most Western countries great. So keep that in mind. Watch this. This is not sustainable. There needs to be an absolute change in the way we look at cybersecurity going forward, especially on the nation state level. Now, let's run through our back part of the show here. Nearly 1 million NHS patients had their information leaked online following the ransomware attack on the London hospital. Case Matrix says that more than 900,000 individuals were caught in the extortion attempt. This one was in June by the Kaline ransomware gang. It includes requests for appointments and a whole lot more information. That information's now been leaked online. It includes names, dates of birth, NHS numbers, and in some cases, personal contact details, alongside with some forms that they were filled out by the patients and medical departments and institutions. So not a good day there. Apple's long-awaited iOS 18 refresh landed on Monday, fixes at least 33 security vulnerabilities that expose iPhone and iPads to an assortment of malicious different criminal attacks. So you want to make sure you get those updated there as well. Over 1,000 misconfigured ServiceNow enterprise instances were found exposing knowledge base articles that contain sensitive corporate information to external users and potential threat actors. The exposed information include PII, internal system details, user credentials, access tokens for live production systems, as well as business operation, which is a big piece, securing business operations. That's so huge. Aaron Costello from App Omni found over 1,000 ServiceNow online instances that are unintentionally exposing company information due to a misconfiguration issue that has now been addressed, and they explain how to block the unauthorized access here, by the way, so you can see that in the show notes. And finally, Meta's announced it will begin training its AI systems using public content shared by adult users across Facebook and Instagram in the UK in the coming month. That means that our generative AI models will reflect British culture, history, and idiom, and that UK companies and institutions will be able to utilize the latest technology. Localizing AI, love it. What could go wrong with that? I don't know. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest and greatest. Until then, please make sure to subscribe, follow us on your favorite social media platforms. Go check out our Substack, jamesazar.substack.com. Have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.